I do ask every publisher, every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present danger, the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security. For the facts of the matter are that this nation's foes have openly boasted of acquiring through our newspapers information they would otherwise hire agents to acquire through theft, bribery, or espionage. The details of this nation's covert preparations to counter the enemy's covert operations have been available to every newspaper reader, friend and foe alike. That the size, the strength, the location, and the nature of our forces and weapons, and our plans and strategy for their use, have all been pinpointed in the press and other news media to a degree sufficient to satisfy any foreign power. The newspapers which printed these stories were loyal, patriotic, responsible, and well-meaning. Had we been engaged in open warfare, they undoubtedly would not have published such items. But in the absence of open warfare, they recognized only the tests of journalism and not the tests of national security. And my question tonight is whether additional tests should not now be adopted. That question is for you alone to answer. No public official should answer it for you. No governmental plan should impose its restraints against your will. But I would be failing in my duty to the nation in considering all of the responsibilities that we now bear and all of the means at hand to meet those responsibilities if I did not commend this problem to your attention. It is the unprecedented nature of this challenge that also gives rise to your second obligation, and that is our obligation to inform and alert the American people, to make certain that they possess all the facts that they need and understand them as well, the perils, the prospects, the purposes of our program, and the choices that we face. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger. And yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent. It requires a change in outlook, a change in tactics, a change in missions by the government, by the people, by every businessman or labor leader, and by every newspaper. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. Nevertheless, every democracy recognizes the necessary restraints of national security. And the question remains whether those restraints need to be more strictly observed if we are to oppose this kind of attack.
Oh, my bad. I forgot all about that. Well, hello, everybody. It's Captain Kyle here, and welcome to the end game. And we have an incredible guest today. I'm really excited. I've been excited all morning long and actually pumped out a truck talk earlier this morning because of it. So with that, we have Sheila Holm and we have the wonderful Kelly. And before we actually get started, as we always do, we are going to pray, because that's the most important thing, is that we bring the Spirit of God into this conversation. So, dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just thank you for all that you're doing. Lord, I thank you for our leadership and for the discernment that you're pouring out upon the land. And that's the most important thing, is that discernment, so that we can see through the psychological warfare that's being portrayed upon people. Father, we thank you that you are revealing the truth, and the truth is what sets us free. Father, we know that the truth does not need defending, because you are the defender of truth. We just need to put it out there. Father, we thank you. We ask for a hedge of protection around all that's listening to this call itself, and that your angels encamp about us, guard us, watch over us, and keep us safe. Those things that are seen and unseen, you are always with us, and we thank you for it. Lord, we just ask that you use us to speak your truth in all things, to give you glory. And we thank you for allowing us to participate in your great plan, not ours, but yours. And we thank you and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Well, all right, now we can get started. Sheila Holm, I am so excited that you're here with us today. And with that, how have you been? We've been in like the same circles, but not actually being able to come together until now. And I think it's all in God's timing. And like I said, we started talking in the background, and golly, we had to stop because we could have just kept on going. It was like meeting an old friend is really what it was like. And when you have spirits that are alike, it's like there's something else that's there. Whether we were, I don't know. I don't even want to go down that road right now, but it was awesome. So Sheila, welcome. And I'm so excited that you're here.
Well, it's great to be with you. And it is Father who's operating in us. And that's what knits all this together in such a beautiful tapestry. It's amazing.
Amen. And we're going to have a great show for you guys. And it's going to go in a lot of different places. But I want you to just open your hearts and allow God to speak to you, and allow that to resonate with you, because this is about finding your truth, not my truth, not Sheila's truth, but your truth. Because when it becomes your truth, you own it. And when you own it, then you can stand upon it. And that's what's important. And so I got a little video that I wanted to play real quick. It's only like a minute or so long, and it kind of sets the precedent about what we're about to start to talk about. And I had no idea what this was going to be about either, which God always does. And he sets me up. He said, get this, put it up, whatever. So, and here we go. So give me 1 second and I'll put this video up, and with some sound. And here we go.
I say it to people, we have a bigger problem, in my opinion, with the enemy from within, and it drives them crazy when I use that term. But we have an enemy from within. We have people that are really bad people that I really think want to make this country unsuccessful. It's just this amorphous group of people. But they're smart and they're vicious. And we have to defeat them. And when I say the enemy from within, the other side goes crazy. Becomes a sound, oh, how can he say? No, they've done very bad things to this country. They are indeed the enemy from within. But this is who we're fighting. Core pillar of our new strategy is a shift from a time-based approach to one based on conditions. I've said it many times, how counterproductive it is for the United States to announce in advance the dates we intend to begin or end military options. We will not talk about numbers of troops or our plans for further military activities. Conditions on the ground, not arbitrary timetables, will guide our strategy from now on. America's enemies must never know our plans or believe they can wait us out. I will not say when we are going to attack, but attack we will.
Keep up.
Just so you understand, I never mentioned the word or the name Israel. Never mentioned it during that conversation. They were all saying I did. So you had to know the story wrong. Never mentioned the word Israel. Not holiday, how about that?
Well, so how does that actually tie into absolutely everything that's going on and has been going on behind the scenes with this takedown of the shadow government that's basically been running the world?
Well, and the whole world was put on notice in that capitulation tour in 2017. And we never talked about this. And everybody's going to go, I think you guys talked about it. We just so you know, we never talked about this ahead of time. But this is a fun topic to discuss, because we're not just here to save America or to save the Western Hemisphere. We've all been spending our money and sending all of our troops over the other side of the world to take care of everything there. And then they bomb it up and blow up our guys. And then we have to rebuild it. And all of that was what was happening in NATO, and that's what's happening in the UN. And so this new peace board that he put together, I don't think people realize when he was in Davos, he got rid of us. We're out of the WHO. We're out of the WEF. You know, Gavin Newsom supposedly signed himself back up in the WHO, but that's against the Constitution too. No state can make those kind of negotiations or decisions or sign any of those kind of deals. So, but NATO, we've been paying for it. We've been paying to blow them up and rebuild them, and we haven't rebuilt America. And so that's not the only part of it. When he went back and did the second tour, and this is when he went to England, and this was just about a week and a half before he brought all of the generals into Quantico on September 30th. And so what he did on the second tour, he was in England. And what people don't realize is King Charles is not in Buckingham Palace because of restoration or no restoration. He's not in Buckingham Palace because he's not in charge. And so Buckingham Palace has been locked up, boarded up since Prince Philip and the Queen were moved out the day they both got COVID. And here's something miraculous. Did you know that the president and the wife of Harvard, they got it on the same day? And on the same day, the King and Queen of Sweden, they got COVID on the same day. All 6 people got it on the same day. What's the connection? The first Julian Assange release about Ericsson. That's why you see ERIC apostrophe S, son. Has anyone heard anything from Eric's son? Anyone know how Eric's son is doing? Ericsson is a company with a 3-line symbol, which means Satan, out of Sweden. And Loretta Lynch, whenever she did it, signed everything. So it compromised our military, compromised our corporations, compromised everything. Loretta Lynch signed a futuristic contract to cover Hillary's years too, and I think it's not over yet. But Ericsson's Ericsson, the company in Sweden, has control over everything. They have control over your phone calls, your text messaging, your emails, everything. They're tracking all of it. And Julian Assange, that was his first release, and it compromised a military mission. But here's what you hear on the video. Anybody remember, this is the first day we heard about WikiLeaks, and he revealed it, and all of it was being revealed that our guys were not constitutional, taking care of enemies. They were excited about shooting the people that were responsible for whatever had to be taken out, and they had to keep shooting till there were no civilians to be witnesses. So they just kept shooting people. And the conversation, WikiLeaks revealed all of it. That was their first video release. And people haven't understood what's going on. So when the second tour happened and President Trump was there with Charles wasn't quite certain when he came around the corner and President Trump was inspecting the guard. He never even asked him to walk along with him. When he was there in 2017, he was very courteous with the Queen. She kept trying to figure out what to do. She was stepping behind him. But everybody's missing when she took off this little white glove, laid it over her left wrist, and surrendered to him. But nothing seemed to really change. But then he inspected the guard, but he let her kind of fuddle along behind him, and she kind of stayed behind him going around the curve. This time, Charles wasn't just trying to stay 6 feet apart. He was trying to stay at the same distance and walk the same gait of the president. He wasn't keeping up at all. It was the most hilarious thing. But it gets even funnier when they went to the parade ground. So here's our Marine band playing the verse. And then when they crisscross, like you see on high school and college football fields, when the band completely went across through the center, here comes the red jackets, the big plume black hats of the guard of the King and Queen of England. And that they come marching through. What are they coming in on? The chorus of YMCA. So they're kind of hearing the verse being played and a lot of pomp and circumstance. And then here they come playing that. 9 flights go over, and it's 3 red, 3 white, 3 blue. And I go, oh, the American flag. I said, well, it's also the British flag. And then he came back, and here's the 2 steps he took. He said, tomorrow, now that I'm back, tomorrow I'm going to be meeting with Bibi about the state of Israel. Nobody ever calls it the state of Israel. That's how they're registered as a corporation, because England was over them too. So he had just been in England, and when he sent out the summons said, His Excellency, President of the United States. And we're like, where did he get that name? You guys, it's in my books. King George, which is what Georgia is named after, which I keep getting stuck going back to Georgia writing more books, is because King George was King of England, King of France, until Napoleon got up on a soapbox. He was so short, he had to stand on a soapbox and pretend like he was as tall as the other men around him, and declared that he was the Emperor of France.
Okay. So I'm going to share something with you while you're still talking. And this is the provisional government for the state of Israel that Harry Truman had to pin in to change it. And 1948. So continue. I'm going to put it up so that people can see what we're talking about is actually spot on.
So when all of this happened and the tracking seemed to be different, here you come forward, and all of this is happening in England. He comes back, and he ends up that he's the new Jewish state. Yep, state of Israel. Yep.
It has nothing to do with the
government
people.
Thereof.
It has nothing to do with the people. It has nothing to do with biblical. That was installed by the Rothschilds intentionally to basically bring forth a regime that was to potentially cause revelations to manifest through their, I don't even want to go down that road, but it was all indoctrinated bullshit. And so when we talk about the nation of Israel, it is not the state of Israel. That is the actual real people of Israel. And they don't have a land as far as an actual land. They never did as far as it goes, because it had always been inhabited. They never did the things that they were supposed to. This is the state. This is a governmental body, which is basically corrupt. And that's why Harry Truman couldn't even put it in the way that they wrote it. He had to put it in provisional.
And it's the State of Israel, Inc., registered each February in London, England.
Yep.
Just like
And
we're.
when Trump went to, we talk about this all the time, that when he actually went to England this last time, everywhere he's gone, he's been presented as royalty, like the king of the world. Why? Because he is the king of the world. Whether people want to know that or not, I don't care. And that we are going back to God kingdoms in that manifest, and that basically he snubbed London, didn't put a foot in it intentionally, but he was strewn around the countryside as royalty, just like when he went to Saudi Arabia, royalty. No one has ever been presented like that in the history of, I can think of. Can you?
Well, it's because it was a fake title in America. It didn't mean anything. And that's what we didn't know, because King George was also His Excellency, the President of the United States, because that was their biggest takeover. We've been a captured operation from the beginning. We didn't win the war in 1781. We won the battle at Yorktown, but we didn't win the war. We didn't win the war in 1812 to get the land back. And the Creek
We talked
Indians
about
were
that a
so
bunch.
mad.
It's like they've just decided it was the long game from there, right?
Yeah. They never have planned on us being, that's why they sent their people in their secret societies. President Kennedy told us everything secret is repugnant. Everything should be transparent. And that's what President Trump is putting everything out there transparent. This is who these people are. This is what they think. But when he got back from England, he met with Bibi about the state of Israel. And then the video that you saw, while we were together, people think we were talking all about Israel. That's not what we were talking about. We didn't even mention Israel when we met, because what people don't understand is, and this is in the personal letter in the new book, in 1906, Jacob became Israel. It's his family, guys. It's not a piece of land somewhere, exactly what Captain was just telling us. It's not a piece of land somewhere. And in 1906, it was Jacob Israel. He already had his 12 sons. They were already progressing, and they were in that area on the land, but they didn't even call it Israel, as far as I know. They were taken captive in 721 BC. But in 1400, along comes Moses, and everybody thinks that the promised land was Israel. There's a lot of fantasy that we have to ask the Father about. It's not, I'm trying to tell you what's going on, or Captain's trying to tell you. You really got to find out from the Father what the truth is, because when you need it, He's the only one that's going to be able to be there to explain, yep, this is what's going on, because we are at war in America. We have been at war. You haven't heard a shot. The shot around the world has been notified several times due to horrific things that are going on. But this country has been under attack for many generations, many decades. We didn't have any idea that we were overtaken as a country from the very, very beginning. In 1792, they established the National Democratic Socialist Party and moved us from Federal Building in New York, Federal Hall, down to DC, and took over 10 square miles of land and made it their own sovereign soil. And we never knew. We never knew. That's why right now it's not being called Washington, D.C. It's being called Washington Military District. People aren't even noticing the difference. And they go back and listen to videos and go, did he just say military district? What's a military district?
The football field back this past year, right?
Yep.
They were out there, and they basically, when they announced that, they announced the band coming out from the Military District of Washington. Yes. And I was like, oh my God, the military just took the field.
Yep.
And they're representing the Military District of Washington. It's begun to come back on shore, because they had us lost at sea. All of us, our veterans, everybody.
Yes. Well, and none of us mattered. And here's the other joke. When they wrote everything for the IRS was for the residents of Washington, D.C., and nobody read it. And what they did, because it's like self-selective slaughter, which was on the Georgia Guidestones for the culling during the genocide in 2020. Well, you selected to do it. You wanted to fly to Italy, so you took the vax. We just told you had to do it, but you chose to do it. So it's self-selective slaughter, and that's what culling is. That was the plan on the Georgia Guidestones. And now it's the same thing on how you make these decisions. But when President Trump brought them all there, remember June 14, and he said, this is my regular military? He brought us back to the militia.
The parade, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he brought us back to the militia. Remember when he called in and he said, this is the Marines and DC Marines. This is the DC Coast Guard. This is the DC Navy. I thought, why is he DC Army? How are they a separate unit? They're completely separate on separate sovereign soil. And so they're a different unit of each of the military just for them. I did not know that. And then what did he do? He lined them all up, and people said, well, if they're already in the military, why are they taking an oath? They took a different oath.
And
so he made them take the oath to the Republic.
And that was so awesome whenever they flew the flag over the parade, right? And then presented him to him and Melania, because Melania's got a stake in this more so than what people realize. She's royalty, and that with that situation, people didn't understand that they were making that transition from the old to the new, and we're presenting you with the flag, sir. And I was in awe when it happened. It was just incredible, right?
Oh my gosh, there's so much more to that moment. That moment was so pristine. Okay, here's the additional. Not only was it over the parade, he said, sir, this was the flag that flew over the Capitol building. They took it down, took it through the parade, put it in like they're giving the family. It was the death of the corporation. Okay, and now think of another thing. He came up to the podium, but who stepped in front? His queen.
Yes.
What unit was that guy from that brought the flag? The Knights unit. He's a knight to queen. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
And I haven't played chess in a long time, but I know it's a really important thing when the knight presents to the queen, and I think that's checkmate, isn't it?
It is. That is an actual checkmate maneuver that is, it's got a specific, play that's called, but I can't remember what it is right now.
So it's knight to queen protecting king. See what I mean?
And he actually put his hands on each of her side and moved her like she was a chess piece.
Yes. That was all done on purpose. Mm-hmm. It's just like everything she wears. Like after all the stuff, we haven't talked about the new book, but God helped me find that we have always been paying for, and we have always been responsible for and liable for, but had no voice in the Panama Canal. And that's point 44 or 45. And that was to internationalize the Panama Canal again. So after we paid for everything, to then take us into the world courts. They're so close to done with us. If Trump hadn't come in, this would be a whole different environment. So thank Father for intervening at this point. So what happened when we did these moves and got this information and got everything turned around, it proved everything. And after he gave me everything, and all these pictures are in the new book, I sent you the PDF so you can see the color pictures because that's what's in the ebooks and Kindle. But not the other ones are black and white. But guys, the pictures and all of his social media, because he understood. And when they said, is there anything else, after he gave me the prices, after he confirmed that China's soldiers were there loyally yet illegally, after he did, when I said maintenance, he did repairs. For AI, we kept flipping the words. And he kept giving me all the answers. And they said, is there anything else, after he gave me all the prices that we paid back in 1903? And I said, no. I said, we've just got to go back to the truth the Pilgrims brought, because they knew the Bible had just been translated into English. Then the Gregorian calendar came along, and I didn't even think about this when I did the new book. The personal letter includes all the problems. The Gregorian calendar, every time I say I'm going to meet you, let's say I'm going to meet you on August, and I'm going to meet you on Sunday the 6th, okay? Every title of the month, every title of the day of the week are all their gods. That's what's wrong with the Pope Gregory, Catholic, universal. We all fellowship together. There is no other God. There's no God over all. You know what I mean? But we didn't
Yes.
know any of this. It's all been a
Uh-huh.
lie. World order since Constantine, Roman Empire, and Holy Roman Catholic Church. And Catholic just means universal. So when all of this started coming together and colluding together, Father had to give us these points because they know this is the same plan they used against every nation. So you go back, we mentioned the capitulation tour the president went on. He took the file about everything they're doing in every country and how that's impacted us. He already had the information from the generals that brought him in. He got in alignment with everybody, and you saw he went to the Forbidden City in China. He went
Yeah.
across the wall with Kim. Go back and think the sword dance, and then 200 princes are relieved from the family the next week. The stuff that happened in 2017 was the start of all of this. But it's
Yeah.
just like what happened with coming in and bringing the summons and bringing all those guys forward. It was a year and 9 months before. A year and 9 months before, exactly to the day and pretty much the hour, they sent out the summons for these guys to come. It was called the Military Accountability Letter, and I think you've already covered that.
Yeah.
But it was done at 4 a.m, just like taking down the Georgia Guidestones, because 4 is their structure. So what our guys have done is take their terminology. That's how we found out 19 was power. That's why the vax and the bioweapon all have 19. That's why it came out in 19. That's their power number. That's why the Georgia Guidestones were 19 foot tall. So now you come to 20, recycle unto death. The Pilgrims knew. They got out of there and got here by 1620. Why? 1620 is when they were going to do another pandemic and kill a bunch more people. They've known this every century, and all of this history has been hidden from us. So I'm sorry, I'm just putting some things together, but I don't mean to.
No, I want you to, because this is an introduction to the platform and the people that are here. And, you and I, we can just keep going back and forth all day long because it's just it's the familiar spirit between the two of us. It's like an old friend, like I said. It's funny because that's how they've been played and didn't realize they were getting played, because we took those things in which they made sacred and used and then flipped them on their head each time. And every time that's happened, it basically had a cause and effect, which all things do. And it caused more and more pandemonium between them because they're not understanding what's going on. And it's like, just like with, the Epstein files, Trump has manufactured consent by how he's done these things intentionally, right? Because if you just blew all that stuff out there and then they'll think that it's intentionally to go after these people. No, people demanded it. People got pissed off. Oh, you're still talking about that? Well, guess what? He was the first informant to actually take him down, and he never stopped. And so with that, it's like, oh, that wasn't supposed to be what was found. Well, no, it wasn't, but this is how it actually is. He's always been on the program to actually do these things, but everyone is always trying to figure out how the Trump derangement syndrome basically has just consumed them with their minds. And it's funny because it's like they've got little platforms out there like Instagram and Facebook right now where it's completely unchecked. So all of this rampantness is going on. And then they're talking about it over on Blue Sky. And it's like, because of that, they're taking this false information that has been out there and continuously making more useful idiots, because that's what they are. They're just useful idiots. And it's horrible because they're going to come to a point where they're going to figure out that they've been wrong all along. And it's going to be difficult for people. It's going to be difficult for the religious doctrine people that are out there that have that religious spirit that has been beating them down all of these years, that they find out that they've been lied to their whole life. And that's the thing that I try to be cognizant of when I speak, because people, even though their ideology is wrong, even though their doctrine may be wrong, they're still they're the other half of me, because we're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a creature of God. You're a creature of God. We all are. And with that, we all have the Spirit of God. Nothing exists outside of the Spirit of God, period. Maybe you just don't recognize it, but you don't exist outside of that. So for me to hate you would be to hate myself. And I can't do that. Even Christ was the way shower that showed us that it's you love the sinner and hate the sin. Because why? Because he's just as I. He's just lost. And that's the thing is that we in your first books, it talks about how their whole point was to separate the families and to separate the people and to cause this infighting between the people. And that's the thing is that if we can start to come together and understand that we are the same, it doesn't matter our color of our skin, whatever, we all bleed red, and it's about us all being the sons and daughters of God, the creator of all things. And when you start to figure that out, then everything they do takes your consent, period. That's a powerful thing. And that if you can walk fearlessly in that I don't consent, you start changing things. Mm-hmm. And that's where we are today, is that people are starting to wake up. But those that are waking up, they are kind of lost still, because it's real easy to manipulate them into false understanding still. Why? Because they don't have any foundation yet. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to give you guys a foundation so that you can stand in your truth and be developed. Sheila's got massive amounts of information that can help you recognize the BS that's out there. And, tell me about how this first really started for you coming down this path. Because like I said in the beginning, when we were talking in the background, how my first was figuring out that the Bushes were freaking Nazis, and that all of the presidents up to President Trump were all foreign, and none of them actually should have ever been president. So what was it for you? That was what it was for me. And I didn't have nobody to talk to, so it was really difficult.
Well, the intro video that you played does cover some of that. The toughest part for me has been coming up against all the lies, and people preferring to keep repeating back to me the lies after I'm letting them know that those are the lies. It's hard for people to change, but what really got me, I've been with the Father the whole time. And when I was 4, I was just saying, they're really nice people, but they just don't get it. And I wanted to go back home. And who was I? You know what I mean? And then when he sent me all over the world, he had children at 4 years old bringing me pictures of me in the meadow, the tall grass, laying on my back, the glory of heaven. My dog was there, my house, the barn. I mean, the kids knew exactly what to draw. And every kid in every country that he introduced me to was 4. And the parents didn't even know that they drew the picture. And they were so miraculous. Do you know what I mean? But I was like, they're really nice people, but they just don't get it. And I could still say that up until the last couple of years. It's been so, so tough. But here's what I went through. And I'm going to let you guys know. So many people are still saying, oh, I'm so sorry. Sheila had to go through so much. Guys, he never let go of my hand. And he taught me the underbelly of the finance system, the judicial system, the credit bureau system. It's all corrupt. The whole thing is corrupt. And now you're finding out Social Security. You have to, if you're an American, you have to wait a couple of months till they do the calculation. And now we find out that people 200 and 300 years old, and Elon told us there are people with future birth dates that aren't even born yet that are getting Social Security checks. Now, how are they count? The thing is, people are so mad about these illegals, but guys, you talk about the enemies, foreign or domestic. The domestic people are helping them get all this money. And how are they calculating it if they never worked here? If they don't even live yet? If their birth date is out in the future? And they found this. And the people 200 and 300 years old, how did they have this? Because it hasn't even been around that long. And how are they still alive? And where are they if they're still alive? Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
But they couldn't do this, and they couldn't start daycares, and they couldn't get all this money if it wasn't our guys giving them the money to get back some of the money. Because then they're beholden to the people who give them the money. So they're giving it from our tax dollars, but they're getting some back. And whether it's an 80-20 and the person who does the daycare gets the 20%, is still millions of dollars. They're willing to do it. They're willing to commit the crime, money laundering. We're dealing with so much. So it did from the time I was young. It's like, these are really nice people gathering together, but they don't get it. They don't get what we're even supposed to be doing, having no idea. In 2017, a prophet called me, and it's because he knew the same Hebrew scholar, Bill Morford, who transcribed from the Hebrew to the One New Man Bible. And so as soon as he heard about me, we got together. And so when he told me all of these things, about myself, it was the same kind of thing, like you said, read my mail. And so It was that kind of a thing. And he told this guy, if you want to get a prophetic word to President Trump, you're just going to have to call Sheila Holm. And he gave me my number because he trusted this guy. He knew him for a long time. But give me your number to get a hold of President Trump? I don't think so, because I'm not going to try and give my stuff to President Trump. He has a lot of my books and asked for some duplicates and stuff. But that doesn't mean we haven't had coffee. We haven't had time to even shake hands. I've been like 5 feet from him for 4, 5, 6 minutes, and he's staring right at me. So I took a picture of him staring at me, and I told the guys, I said, he didn't even come over and shake my hand, but he kept staring at me. And they said, well, just get the book done and you'll do more than just shake his hand. But I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't expect it. But as I've been climbing through all this, what Father has shown me with the complete devastation and fraud of everything that's happened, I can honestly tell you, I wouldn't be able to connect the dots like I can now if Father wasn't giving me all this input, if Father wasn't walking me through, if Father wasn't helping me figure this whole thing out, if Father wasn't telling me what to avoid and people to avoid. And when he took me all over the world, I didn't have any money. And the one year that he said about his currency, he said, because I went 7 times, and instead of a dollar bill at the top of the stairs, I gained enough to have a $5 bill, and I left it in that jar. And then he wanted me to go somewhere, so all I would leave my house with was $5. He took care of everything. And so it happened 7 times in a 12-month period. And so when this was happening, I said, this is getting pretty funny. By the 5th, 6th, 7th time, I said, this is getting pretty funny. I said, I leave with $5. And what would happen is he always flew me to London. And then when I got to London, all this other stuff happened. I was in all these other nations, come back to London and come home. That was the pattern. And it was different nations all the time. And he handled absolutely everything. But I wasn't putting together. And I said, this is kind of funny that this is happening, because I get home and all the little pieces of the money I had left from all those different nations, I thought I was going to be really wealthy. And so I took it and went to exchange. I got a $5 bill back. And I said, this is just crazy that this is happening. And he said, this is your training. I said, my training for what? And he said, you don't realize yet? And I said, I don't think so. And he said, Sheila, I'm training you. I don't need your money from the world to take you where I need you to go and do what I need you to do. I'm doing this with you and for you, because this way you can explain to my people how they can operate with me. And if the world currency collapsed, it wouldn't matter. So that's the first trilogy of books. Filled with faith. It's a faith walk. God's storehouse principle. We've got to start blessing each other, because what I kept saying is, I've spoken in front of 6,000, 60,000 people. I can't get a testimony. And he said, you aren't even sharing testimony. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He said, you keep telling me about all the mail you're getting that's negative. This is how simple he is. Why don't you start sending a positive message each day and put it in the mail? And so I started there. And when I started blessing people, it just, you cannot stop what is coming. And that's his blessing cycle. And what they had excess of, they left out for the people who did not have. And then they said, who is this Lord you serve, who does these amazing things for you that you live in excess that you can share with me? My God has done nothing for me. We aren't even operating this way to even wake the people up. Because then you got to wake up. I don't think you've waken up yet. We don't understand. We're not the example. So when I started helping all of these widows and they started helping me, all of a sudden my life turned around. And as God did that, he sent me more and more places. But he handled all of the flights. And it started with, I was supposed to go to Australia. And I told the pastor I'd love to go. It's in 3 days. There's no way. He said, well, what's missing? And I'm like, what do you mean? You're asking me what's missing? a flight to Australia. It's 3 days away. And I've still got to pay for the rental car that I used to come and see you. And he said, so you need a flight? I said, yeah. And he said, well, then why don't you go use one of my phones and call the airlines? I'm walking down the hallway and I go, God, I don't know what is with this pastor, but he thinks I can just go pick up the phone and just call the airlines. The airlines are going to just send me to Australia. And God said, well, why don't you make the call? I'm like, okay. So I made the phone call. I was with American Airlines frequent flyer because I was a speaker at that time. And that's all I had. And were those points, but I had no way to pay for anything because there's a fee to use those points and all that kind of stuff that we used to have to go through. And I always used to have American Express traveler's checks, but boom, here I am. So I go in and I make the phone call. And I told 9 people in a row, God needs me in Australia in 3 days, and he needs me there. And I'll even take the jump seat. And they said, oh, so you got a pilot's license? I said, of course not. I said, I'm just wanting to take the jump seat because that's probably the one seat that's open. They said, well, that's the person that takes over if something happens to the pilot or co-pilot. I'm like, oh, no, that's not me. And so we kept going. And then they said it would take a miracle to get to Australia in 3 days. I don't know how you think the airlines is going to do this. I said, well, finally, God had me saying, I stand on miracles. This has to happen. The 10th person came on. It was a big muckety muck manager with American Airlines. And she said, are you doing this because we just signed a contract with Qantas? And I said, no, I didn't know you signed a contract with Qantas. She said, well, we've been on the line with Qantas, and Qantas wants the Qantas people want to know too. So we're all going to meet you in our clubhouse in Los Angeles. We're going to send you a ticket, San Diego to Los Angeles. So once you come to Los Angeles, you come into the club and the Qantas people, and we're going to be there. We want to meet this person that God has to have in Australia in 3 days. Guys, they gave me a round trip ticket. Didn't cost me a dime. I mean, that's kind of, so how did all this start? Every phase of my life, he's kickstarted. Every single phase of my life, he's kickstarted. And he got me out of being a corporate director. And that was my whole goal. And then he got me out of being the corporate owner of a medical legal. He didn't want me in medical or legal. Okay. So he got me out of that. And I keep thinking, I'm losing. And then I went for I was on my way to ABC in San Diego to take the 5-year picture to sign the contract. I mean, everything was all set. I'm in my new suit, just got my hair done, all set to go. And that got pulled out because the assistant news director became the news director. Now they were reducing him back to bring in somebody from San Antonio. So he left for Bakersfield. So there was my contact to make that happen. I said, God, what is all this? Every time I'm right there and everything's done, and I think that's it, pulled out. God knew he had to pull me out of all of that, but he had to show me all of that. So he showed me the medical legal industry. He showed me the corporate life. He showed me what corporate staff people do, because I was the only woman on staff. I was so honored. I thought I was all that in a bag of chips, but I wasn't. And so when he got me out of all of that, and then the hostile takeover had me without a roof over my head for 12 years. And I never went back and depended on my family. Father kept telling me what he wanted me to do. So how did I get with him and do this? It would take several shows to explain all the miraculous things he did to show me that all I had to do was trust him. Because I was
That's the hardest part, because he says go.
Yeah.
He says go. This is what he did to me in the very beginning. He said, I want you to go to do something. And then with me, I was like gung-ho. I was like, pew. And it was like, that's my boy, but he's going to wait until I tell him what to do. He's going to I haven't made the provision for him yet. He's going to stumble. It's going to work out, but he's going to suffer because of it, because he didn't wait on me. And I had to learn that when God tells me to do something, then it's like, okay, I have an actual tattoo on my ankle that's got an anchor with it, with my wife on the name of it, right? Because that reminds me that if I drag my feet, he will actually pull me along to where I need to be right when I need to be there, instead of getting ahead of him and he's behind me and then I'm out there on my own, right? And it's the same thing, same kind of teaching, same kind of training. And it would be like, that's my boy, but he's going to have to learn to wait on me. And it has been the hardest thing in the world to basically go out there just like you with $5 and not know, because you got to go when he tells you go, And then you trust. And when we first started this, you can ask Kelly the same thing, that when we would start doing these things, I would have absolutely no idea what I'm going to talk about. Just wait on God. And here we are talking to several thousand people, and I have no idea what I'm going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And if he doesn't show up, then it's like a whole lot of crickets, basically. And ever since then, and I mean, I get to where I want to throw up. That's how bad it is, because you're that nervous about this, everything. And that never goes away. It's still there because I still do the same thing. I don't write down notes. I don't do anything. He says do something, just like the video and a couple of things. He's like, go do this, go do that, and then you'll figure it out whenever it's time. And he does that all the time with everything. And as long as I go down that path and trust what he's telling me to do, it always works out. And that's the thing. It's so awesome. And I see,
you know what Bill Morford told me? He said, Sheila, you're arguing with God. I don't know, am I supposed to do it now? And is this really what you're saying? And all of that. And he said he doesn't. He's not upset about the arguments because he likes your questions. But sooner or later, you're going to hear him say something and then you're going to do it. And I have an example for you. At 4:30 in the morning, before 4:30 in the morning, I was supposed to be at San Diego Airport. I was laying down to go to bed, and he said, you're not packed. And I said, I'm not packed for where? He said, I need you to go tomorrow. I said, where am I going? It was back to London again. So I was going to be going to the international airport. And I said, well, there's no time to even go arrange anything now. And he goes, it's okay. It's all arranged. I've got a ticket for you at will call. I go, there's no will call at the airport. So I'm having this discussion with him. And this is where it's different for me now, because now I talk about everything with him because he wants to know all things because he's in all things. Okay. And so I'm telling him how will call works, that you already have everything together and it's for like a concert and the ticket's already sitting there because you already handled it and paid for it. And then it's in the like this. And I'm telling him about the sports arena in San Diego, how they have the window and how they have will call over the top of it. He let me just keep talking. He didn't say a word. And when I got done, he said, can I ask you again? I said, sure. And he said, will you be at the airport before 4:30 in the morning? I'm like, you're serious? And he said, yes, I'm serious. I said, okay, I'll go. So I go to the airport before 4:30. The sky caps are setting up. Nobody's really doing anything yet because it's before 4:30. And so they said, can you give us your ticket so we can help you with your luggage? And I go, I don't have a ticket. They go, you can't come to the international airport and not have a ticket. I said, I told that to God. You see how it worked? I'm here. He said, I'll have the ticket there. And he goes, this doesn't make any sense to us. And both men were just laughing at me. I said, that's okay. And they wouldn't help me. So I'm schlepping all this luggage because I don't know. I never know how long I'm going to be there. And he told me to take all of this for different weather. Didn't know I was going to go to the Alps. So I go through and I get everything upstairs to American Airlines. Now they just signed an agreement with British Air, right? And so I go up there and I get up to the window and one woman walks out. And she said, and what is your name? And I said, my name is Sheila Holm, and I don't have a ticket, but it's supposed to be a will call. She said, great, I'm the will call person for this airline. And so she hands me the ticket. And I'm like, God, and I had just told them that God did this in the middle of the night, right? And said, just get there before 4:30, before they open. And so I'm up there, and the employees aren't out there yet. As soon as this woman hands me the ticket, she is no more. And these guys witnessed it. So the two of them take the luggage and they're just like, setting it up. And I said, well, nobody's here yet. When the people come out, they're carrying their coffee cups and they're turning on their computers. The computers weren't even on. And they knew that I got the call in the middle of the night. You see, so with the testimony is never just for us, it's for everybody else too.
That's what it's really for.
And they come out and they go, do you have a ticket? And I said, of course I do. And they said, well, good. And so I handed them the ticket. So they're trying to say she didn't have a ticket until just moments ago. So these guys are trying to, you're not going to believe it, that she just got the ticket and your computers aren't even on yet. And they're trying to get them to say something. These people don't have any idea what they're talking about because they don't know who was out there. Do you know what I mean? So they're proving that God did all of it, not needing anybody in the world to do any of it. Do you see what I mean? Yes. And so then they put the tickets on there and boom, I'm gone. But this is, and I hear what you're saying in that. And there's something on the other side of this for you, because you feeling that way, You're feeling that he hasn't shown up yet, so I can't start. And he never leaves you and he never forsakes you. And I never knew what we were going to talk about today, but you knew something that I was going to be able to help with that we haven't surprised the people with yet. That I'm not going to give away a clue, but that's the one thing you talked about. We haven't even talked about that yet. Everything else has been off the cuff, back and forth, because there's only the Holy Spirit and he's working between us. Because why? We're fully committed to the Father. We know we're going to win this. We know we can yell Kofefe to anybody because we're
Yeah.
believers and we're coming through this. And as bad as the negative press was for the president, he said, due to all this negative press, Kofefe, what you guys don't understand is I'm always going to rise. You're not.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like I got up really early this morning. It was like the crack of dawn, and it's my whole day has been just one thing after another. And I had no idea what was happening, but I did. And that's the thing, is that our life is for us to learn,
Mhm.
but to live for people to see. That's
Yes.
the important part, right?
We're the
Because all those
testimony.
things
We're him here. We're his feet on
yes,
soil here.
that's the bearer, is the one that's actually doing it. Because it's like when I was talking to Kelly last night, I was like, you know what? Why I don't get into the muck and mire and things of that nature? Because I'm in front. I lead. I don't. That's behind me. And if I turn around to go back, it's being like Lot's wife, right? You know what
Mhm.
happened to that?
That's
It's
the
a
devil.
bad thing. You always stay in front. If you're in front, then all those things behind you don't matter because they're already been. It's like the only thing that is now and tomorrow.
Mhm.
And we don't have to worry about tomorrow because we live in the now. And when
Mhm.
God says something, this is what people have to learn. When God tells you anything, it's already done. It may not have manifested in your life yet, but God is omnipresent in his reality. We're not operating in the omnipresent. We're in a linear function. We haven't gotten to it yet. That's all. And when you can start to understand that, your reality will begin to change immensely. And so our lives, and what Sheila's talked about, what I've talked about, has been a training ground for us because it's made us who we are today. And immediately when you meet another person that operates this way, you recognize it immediately because it just happens. And so that's that spirit connecting through spirit, not through me, not through our physical. It's a spiritual thing, 100%. And it's like when we don't have an agenda, but we do, we're flexible to where it's not set in stone because it never should be. It should be. God taught me whenever I was going out and teaching, where I'd go out to these big giant churches. I was still in Bible college and I was getting guest offerings to go and teach. And I would do all of this work, right? And I would prepare for it all week. I put this whole thing together and I get up in the podium and start to talk, and God would take me down a rabbit hole. And I never talk about that at all. And I would be like, after time and time and time again doing that, God, I asked him, I was like, why are you doing that to me? He's like, I want you to be prepared, but I want you to recognize when I show up. And I'll always show up. And that's where I started learning that. And that was 25, almost 30 years ago, actually. And it's like, I don't need validation from anything, just like you don't, because I get my validation from what God tells me. But that also becomes your truth. And when that becomes your truth, you don't care that people think you're crazy because that just goes along with the package, right? And it's a whole different ballgame. And that's what I think where we are right now, because God's about to reveal himself. I'm telling you right now, people, God is going to reveal himself to every being on this planet. There's not one thing's going to miss it. I've said this for years, that when God reveals himself, the rocks are going to cry out, just as the word says. There will be no denying. There will be no Maybe that was no. And I even asked, it was like, God, what about the people that are sleeping? What about the ones that are in a coma? He's like, I will speak to them all and they will know that I am. That was it. It was like, I'm good with that. And so we don't have to be the one that convinces people. All we have to do is stick with our truth, try to help people along the path, and let God be God. And with that, where do you see us right now in this turning point that we are at? Because of the chaos that's coming, that has to come to break this programming that everybody's in. And where do you see us in this transition period? Because that's where we're at right now. And that's where all this chaos is happening. And so with that, how do you see us going
Our guys
through?
are tracking it. It had to be more than 80% to not go back to civil war, because believing men will fight for a cause, and that's how they've been able to keep putting us in wars. And even though we shouldn't be in any of them, and that's why he changed us. We were Department of War, then it went to Department of Defense, and we've been defending everybody around the world, and while we've been taken over here on our land, and so that's already known. And I've really seen a major shift. I saw a shift after the shot at Butler, and then the shot that weekend at the golf course.
Yes.
Do you know he only told one person that he was going to be on the golf course at that time? And it leaked, and that guy was there. But they did that as a test. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
And
No,
the
I
one
didn't.
guy he told leaked it, and that guy was there
Oh, wow.
to shoot through the bushes, knowing exactly when he would be at that point at the golf course down at Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
Just saying. Or his national golf course is a little ways from there. I went to the Lou Holtz tournament a couple of years ago, and it was amazing. 24 to see that golf course. I'd never been there before, and so I did that as part of the America First Policy Institute gathering at Mar-a-Lago, and it's powerful when you get to witness these things and see these things. But I think we're much further along than people communicate on social media, because a lot of people are in their homes knowing what we need to do, still seeming to be part of a silent majority, but they're not willing to stay silent when needed. They're there. I see that whole huge army ready to handle this once and for all, because that's the way our people are. Because there was something Elon put out this morning. I don't know if you can pull it up on Twitter, but he put something out that if people could understand that there's 90% really amazing people in the world and 10% evil, but the 10% evil are making it like they're the majority of the world, and because their voices are so loud. I mean, the other night when Elon Omar and Talib were going off during it and screaming at the top of their lungs at one of the very most amazing and exciting summary of where we are. And he didn't even get into what he shared in Rome, Georgia. He was really revealing to us the layers that they're handling. Like, it was just a couple of months ago when we had a lower crime rate in America than 100 years ago. By the time he was in Rome, Georgia last week, it was 125 years ago. People don't understand. He's taking us back, because this is what President Jefferson told us. He said, you cannot replace an evil. You cannot take out an evil and think you're going to put something else in its place. Because once this republic is corrupted, you have to completely restructure it from the ground up again. And that's what we haven't been able to do. That's what the Civil War was. They knew it was this bad at the time of the Civil War. That's why after I spoke in Virginia Beach in July of 22, then I went to Batavia, New York, and that was in August. And when I went to that event, I was on my way and I stopped at Gettysburg, and that's when he showed me the soldier monument. It's identical to the Faith Monument, except they have no hope. They dedicated it to Lincoln because he ran by the Bible, stood with the Bible. The Republican Party for the Republic had just started in 1854, I believe, in Ripon, Wisconsin. And I put the pictures of it. It looks like an old schoolhouse. Country schoolhouse is where they had their first meeting. And then their first candidate was Lincoln, who had never won an election ever, and then became president. And he even was reelected for the second term. And then on the 42nd day of the second term is when the Knights of Pythias team, led by John Wilkes Booth, took him out at Ford Theater. And so we're up against the same battle as our guys were in the Civil War. We're up against the same battle all the way back to the Garden of Eden. And when people say, why would God send me to this corrupt and crazy and awful world if he says he loves me? And I said, he loves you so much he sent you, because the evil was here before Adam was formed. But this is what it is. The job of the mainstream media today is to make you think the views of 10% of the country are actually the views of 90% of the country. That's what they do. So if Kelly brought that up, thank you. I didn't know that was going to happen. That's amazing. You guys are amazing.
So it's I 100% agree with that statement, and I think that where so many people are kind of missing the mark is there's so much distraction out there on purpose, right? Because this has been a covert war that's been going on behind the scenes for so long, and it's now starting to enter into the public space on purpose, because it has to, for the finality of this. And it has to make that impression that this never happens again, but not just in America, but everywhere in the world. And, some people are, have had that mindset, well, we need to fix it at home, and then after we deal with it here, then we'll go. No, this is rooted in everything that the entirety of the world is about, because they've been playing this long game for so long. There is no getting part of it and then dealing with a part of it later. No, it's all got to be taken care of simultaneously. So a couple of years ago, all these operations that's been going on around the world, where we're almost at World War III levels, but we've got all of these operations of all these countries. You don't do these stupid operations with countries and countries when you're at the doorstep of World War III. People need to use their common sense a little bit more and understand that, like back when we did the tests of the all time zones around the world, where they all simultaneously immenced operations at the same exact time. That was the initiator for the test for the RICO being released all at one time, and that they were all on board everywhere, and that it was being mapped out at that time.
That was August 8 to 18, the 10 days that all military, never in the world, never in the history of anything in the world, did all countries, all military, all coordinate together for 10 days to be sure that they were going to be able to do whatever needed to happen to keep their country safe.
And you spoke about that at 1:07, by the way, 1 hour and 7 minutes into this.
Of course. Of course.
Well, that's how it is.
The 107
and I
for
had
the State of the Union.
This is where it was coming from. But the thing with this is that where we're at right now is, and this is my opinion, we have technology. We have things that we could stop all this right now. But it'd be just like what happened with 9/11. A couple years later, everybody's forgetting about it. And it has to touch every single person so that it leaves an impression that this never happens again. And I mean with everyone. And this is kind of like what's going on over in the Iraq right now. I mean, Iran right now, is the technologies. We're already at war with them. We're already doing missions inside of Iran. We've got buildings and we got military stuff blowing up all over the place, and they keep saying it's gas leaks. No, we've got people on the ground, but we also are using technologies that nothing can stop what's coming. Nothing. We could actually, and maybe you can confirm this as well, is that we do have technologies that we could take down any country in the world in 24 hours and it'd be over with. We actually have that technology right now. And the other countries already know that we do. Mm-hmm. But the people, that's the problem, is that the people have to be able to understand what is at stake and what is actually happening. So if we were to go in there and do like we did in Venezuela, where we just go in there and blow up a little bit of stuff and a couple of, 20 minutes later we're gone. And what was important with that is that you got to see that they couldn't do anything with it. And that was where President Trump actually confirmed, that was Russian and Chinese hardware that they had there, and we shut it all down, came in with helicopters, and we actually took him out with our super soldiers that took out hundreds of Cuban operatives. But the ones that saw it,
discombobulator,
they actually spread the message all over Latin America. And that was what Trump always said, is like, when you do something, it's not for the person you're doing it to, it's for all those others that get to watch it, right? So I think what's about to happen right now, and in my opinion, I think it's going to happen this weekend, actually probably Friday night late or Saturday, because that's when it's best for the markets, is over the weekend, because that's what we did the last two. Where when we did Honduras, it was on Saturday night. Venezuela, Saturday night, Sunday morning. Same thing. Where when we went to Midnight Hammer, it was Friday night, Saturday morning there. So or vice versa, it doesn't matter. But that's how it kind of operates, right? And so they've been given their last warning. It's all about the stage for the people in the world. And when you've got that kind of buy-in from the people, that's what's important there, right? Is the people. And if we were to come in and just do what we did in Venezuela and take out all their stuff, and there's nothing really that is memorable from it other than it just happening, then it doesn't have that same impact. But if you go in there, you control it all like we can, and then you just blow some shit up and enjoy the hell out of it from the testosterone fact of it and the cinematic usage that gets. Because when people start videoing it from their own phones and their own stuff, and it's like, oh my God, and it's like, yeah, you don't mess with the biggest dog on the block ever. We're not here to control you. We want equal. We want that democratic sovereignty for your own nation. But don't think you're going to cross the line, because the big dog's on the street now, and it's not going to happen. And I don't know if people are aware, but we're having over in Gaza, people, have you seen Gaza? It looks like a freaking parking lot. But we're actually putting a huge military operation in the middle of Gaza, and in having a port that's there with it, to put our technology right there in the middle of the most volatile part of the world, to say, the big dog is on the block, leave us all alone. Everybody, don't think you're going to ever come back out of the shadows. And I think that it's the stage is being set, is what I think. What do you?
It's the same in Mexico. We're setting our SEAL team in and everything he set up with the president of Mexico. But 100, not a year ago, he brought all the cartels up to America. And what people didn't understand about Cuba's been controlling all of this. And so Cuba's been controlling everything in Venezuela. And they thought, well, Cuba's not even related. Sheila, what are you talking about with Cuba? Well, yes, it is. They had to get the permission of Cuba to do all sorts of things. And so, but one thing I think we should try and shift, and then I don't know if you still want to share what you wanted to share before. I probably only have like 5 or 6 or 7 minutes, because I have another one on the hour. So, okay. But everybody's focused, and this is what I think we need to shift. Everybody's focused on what Trump is doing, what the military is doing. Is there going to be an insurrection? Are we going to have a martial law? None of that is going to affect us, because we're righteous people on the land. They are doing everything they can to bring us back to Americans. And I'm going to share a couple of things that you might think, oh my gosh, is that happening? I was just at a swearing in of naturalized citizens. And did you know that they had them get a certificate with a number on it in an envelope with their name on the outside? And this is what they told him from the front of the room. When you get the certificate, make sure you pick only 3 names, because a lot of people come from the countries where they have a first and a like 3 or 4 middle and then a last. And he said, whatever name you pick for the first name has to remain the first name for the rest of the time in America. And then a middle name and then your last name. Why wasn't that sorted out before they gave them the certificate? Why wasn't the name on the certificate that they'd have to go by? So who are they going to be when they're here when we don't even know which name they're picking for the first name? I'm sitting there in the audience, I'm hearing this stuff. And then he said, there's a new administration. So that's why we're into these new rules. So this wasn't even a rule before for us to even tell them to pick just 3 names. Okay. So I'm hearing all of this. And then he said, and to those of you who have other family members who want to become citizens, we've got to tell you, all of our offices are full from floor to ceiling. And the people who did the interviews that I was with as a witness for her being sworn in, she saw the same thing in their offices. From floor to ceiling, they have files of undocumented people who want to get their green card and start the process, and they're still evaluating them. So we have all these undocumented people here who are in the immigration system. So I was explaining this on an interview on Monday night with 3 military guys. And one of the military guys' wife has a green card, and they're going through all the steps and all the money to sponsor her to become a naturalized citizen. Okay. Then they heard this weird thing that this guy said. He just went to his post office, and what you do is you turn in the green card instead of turning in a passport to get a passport, and fill out the passport form, and then you'll get the passport back. An American passport. He thought, that is crazy. But they're going to cross every T and dot every I because he's a military guy. Okay. So he goes to his local post office, and his local post office, he just asked the question. They said, yeah, that's what we can do. What you have to do is we have to mail the green card in with your forms, and then you will get an American passport back. So then what's the purpose of becoming a naturalized citizen and even doing anything to swearing in as a citizen? Are you seeing what's happening in America? So they're not just bringing them in illegally. They're doing everything they can process them illegally. And that's where we are. That's where we are.
So if you don't mind, because this other part that we talked about was important, right? If you would like to come back, we'll go back through this other stuff, and there'll be more to it because Robert and I speak on these things every 2 weeks, right, about what's going on. And this very process, it's going to lead into the Brunson deal as well. It has never gone away. And he's been on my show many times, actually, a long time ago. So let's do that, if you would, because this is what God wanted to talk about today. And I don't want it to change what God actually wanted to talk about. And so if you would, then let's try to reschedule and have you come back, and then we'll go down this other path again, because I don't want to shortchange that other information because there was a lot to it, right?
Well, I've got let me see here. I could do about 5 minutes and then I got to jump. So okay. I think we have time to explain to the people how that is going.
All right. Let's bring that up.
Because I already told them I already brought up the thing about Brunson, where the Congress, House and Senate aren't taking an oath and didn't cure it. Then we talked about the judges not taking an oath and didn't cure it. And guys, this is what I've been getting all week from a lady, and she sent me all of these variety of different signatures, Ron DeSantis, Pam Bondi, all of these. But all of these have their signature and everything on it. But then my question, and nobody's answered it yet, are the red lettering, because every one of them says refusal for cause, but do you see what it circles? So help me God. And they're writing no, 2 exclamation points, circling, so help me God. And the refusal for cause is just like you see it here, and some of them are circled, and they're all done in the same kind of red ink. So was that on there before the FOIA, or was that put on there when they got the FOIA?
Right.
Because what they found is that the judges are not taking the oaths and refusing to cure the oaths. They have 10 days to cure. So if you're saying you're refusing for cause because you're not going to say, so help me God, they're revealing who they are. Did you know our first Congress session was on Christmas? Because everybody knew the 13 high holy days of the Satanists are from December 24 to January 6. None of this has to do with Christ. Nothing that we're doing has to do with Christ. And that's blasphemy. And it came out of me on a TV interview live that I couldn't go back and change. I just said, has nothing to do with Christ, calling it Christianity. We got to quit doing this stuff. And now you see what they're doing? They're proving
Yes.
they've taken other oaths, and the skull and bones on there with the 322, that's Genesis 322. That's why the Georgia Guidestones went up on 322. So I know this seems like I'm sharing it fast, but you guys already know these connect the dots. I'm so grateful for you, Captain, because you know this truth also, and the Father is bringing you through these things too. But to see it in print and to see this come out from a FOIA request and realize this is how they're denying, because point 13 of the 45 points is avoid all loyalty oaths. Don't take them.
Right. And it's they have revealed themselves over and over again, but the public is in what I would say a sleep state, where when you say these things about stuff, it's like, oh yeah, they're corrupt, but they're not that corrupt. And yeah, we know that they do this and they do that, but that's where I think that we're slowly taking them down the road of $1 trillion worth of fraud a year within our budget. That's would change everything, right? Not only that, but they want you dead. They've been feeding you people intentionally. Which, do you understand what when you eat human beings, what it does to your body? It changes your brain, it changes your chemistry, and it causes you to become violent. It causes you to change who you are as a human. And they've been doing these things to us intentionally, not only poison us and everything else. I mean, we've got the letters and their document of their intent over their, plan. But it's like, when you see that this is who they really are, and that Trump put focus on that directly, he set them up so brilliantly. I got a video that's I'm going to post right after this. I'll download it and post, where talking about how he set them up and walking them down this path of when they're showing their faces and their stuff, and they're like, oh my God, we just all got set up and there's nothing we can do about it. And it's like, yeah, you got shown to the American people that you would rather be subjugated to illegal immigrants, not immigrants. And then he took them right after that and shamed them that why you don't want voter ID. Why? Because you can keep these people in here so you can cheat. And then it's like, and then he spoke about Mandani. He's like, the Mandani, golly, he's like, what are you guys doing? Y'all got a freaking communist in the freaking city, and y'all are praying to Allah. I got a video of that this morning. I posted on the channel. I was like, what in the hell are you doing, people? And he's like, but at least he's smart enough to know you got to have 2 forms of ID and a social security card to sign up so that you can shovel snow. And he says that in front of everybody. It's like, but they don't want you to have an ID for the most sacred thing, to be able to vote in our elections. Tells exactly who these people are. And those are things that go to people's subconscious, not their forethought, but into their subconscious, that makes them start to question everything. It was brilliant, and I'll post that right after this. Sheila, it has been absolutely wonderful talking to you today. Hope to do it again soon. Always open, and I love everything you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, And like I said, you're welcome here anytime. And last words, floor is yours.
Well, your schedule is so full. When I saw all those things on your schedule, it's like, oh my goodness, how do we do this? So Kelly,
This
let me
is
know.
work.
Um, but we didn't even get into the book today, so we should come back and do something soon, because I don't know if your people knew, because I'm asking a lot of people, and nobody even knew we got the Panama Canal secured, and nobody got that we're turning these things around, and nobody got what these 45 points are. I'm asking people and to not even know, because the president made it very clear what he's doing and why he's doing it, what it cost us, and how many lives we lost. I mean, he's sharing all of this truth. But everything, and thank you for putting the intro video up. That's also on the website. Everything's on hisbest.org. From the targeting the health products page is only the products that got me through. And we talked about we've got to get through this, guys. We've got to keep ourselves in good health and get through this, because we were chosen as a generation. And wouldn't it be amazing? Because it says in scripture, a generation that shall not taste death. Because his father said, and it's in the personal letter, I brought Moses on a dar 7. And when I walked him away and he was no more, it was a dar 7, but he was on the Mount of Transfiguration. He did the same thing with Elijah. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we accomplish all of this, so the future generations can live with peace in their heart and their mind? Because that's what Christians used to say, peace be with you. And the response was, peace also be with you.
Mm-hmm.
We don't say that anymore, because people don't want to be recognized as being a Christian out there. But it's because of what Christian became. Nothing that they've called Christianity has anything to do with Christ. And the sooner we can get away from that and just get in fellowship with the Father and true believers and have conversations like Captain and I had today, this is what is going to change this world. It's not about what the top guys in the military are doing. They're going to get their job done. They know
That's right.
exactly what to do. They're telling us what they're doing, but they can't just, everybody goes, why don't they just reveal the plan? The enemy is within. We are fighting a war on our own soil with people we think are with us. The woman organizing all of those riots in Minnesota, it looks like you and I, and she smiles all the time. She's a candidate for Senate in the state of Minnesota, tightest person with Tim Walz. And nobody would have recognized that if our guys hadn't gone in there, because we don't know who these people are. That, I hope we got that across today, that you don't know who they are. Ask Father to tell you in all things. He will be with you in all things and tell you the truth about all of these people. We've got to pull away from the evil ones to get the job done.
Praise God. And that's all there is. I mean, let him lead you and guide you, and your world will change immediately. It's hard, but it's not hard. That's the thing. I was telling Kelly last night before we end that all of the principles are really fundamentally easy. They're hard as crap to do. It's plain and simple, but they're easy to explain. They're just hard to do. But with that, Sheila, love you very much. It was great, and I enjoyed this so much. And we'll do this again very soon. And
Yeah, I was going to say, Captain, I've got the website up there with all the books. And if y'all want to take a look at them and go over these 45 points, and then maybe we can make a date in March, Sheila? I can
What are
send you
you
March.
thinking in what are you thinking in March? I'm pulling out the calendar right now because I got about 5 minutes to jump.
Yeah, let me just send you that March calendar. This way you don't have to rush.
Okay.
How's that sound? And then we
Okay.
can kind of go over your books, and people can get a chance to look at them also.
If you've got a 2:00 on a Thursday, I'll hold it for you. You tell me. Later in March is better, like the 19th
Okay.
or
2:00 on a Thursday. That sounds good. I will.
that would be no problem whatsoever. I can figure one out real easy.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. I'll email
So
you.
where did you say you had it, Kelly? The 45 points?
That's in which book is that in? Your 45 points.
An Eternal Plan. I sent the front and back cover,
Okay,
and
yeah.
the table of contents is 5 pages long.
Okay.
So you have
General
all that,
Flynn, I've
Kelly.
been calling every month to find out when is that book coming out. And then when I told him it was 500 pages, but sir, you'll be able to reference it because it's got a 5-page table of contents, I shocked him.
Okay, yeah, I see it. The An Eternal Plan. That's your first book
It
there on
always
the
trumps
list.
the human
Okay,
plan. Yeah.
awesome. Okay, wonderful. So I will email you that date. It'll be a Thursday at 2 Eastern, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're Eastern?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it'll be towards the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
All right.
I'll do
That
that right
sounds
after
good.
the
Well,
show.
blessings upon you, and just thank you. This has been amazing.
Absolutely. I
Thank
enjoyed
you,
it so
Sheila.
much. I look forward to it again. So, with that, good day, everybody, and be faithful.
Thank you all. Good day.
Well, as they follow us on Twitter, I'm retweeting your tweets, and if they just follow that, they'll know we're talking. So.
Good.